So I'm Gretchen Caserotti, and I love that in the program they put the state behind my library's name because no one knows where Meridian is. Nor did I when I started this job, or well, I mean, obviously I did when I started it, but when I took the job, the staff there joked, I can hear the clicks of 1,000 people Googling Meridian, Idaho. It is the fastest growing city in the state of Idaho, just recently became the second largest to our capital, Boise. We are a district library, which means we're an independent taxing district, and we are not a city department. When I started the job, there were 84,000 residents in our district, and just recently we surpassed 100,000. We continue to grow very rapidly. It's an old farming community, and we are turning over family farms and building large subdivisions with lots of housing and lots of cars, which people don't like, and yet they still have 3 of them. But I digress. So we have a fascinating mix. I remember when I first moved there, riding my bike to work and passing through 6 houses being constructed, past a farm with cattle grazing, through past a mobile home trailer park, and then past another brand new, 3-car garage housing neighborhood. So it's an incredible mix, and when we talk about diversity in our community, we're really looking a lot more at socioeconomic diversity. We are a fairly homogenous and very conservative community. They're very proud, the residents that we serve are very proud of, as they call themselves, well-churched. So just I want to share those kinds of things to kind of paint a picture, because when I started that job, I was coming from Darien Library in Connecticut, which is a small community, well-funded. I like to refer to my time there as kind of feeling like I was in a lab space where we got to experiment and try new things, and innovation was welcomed and supported by the administration. As a frontline librarian, I didn't really know what a director did, I'll be honest. And even by the time I came to Darien, I knew I was well supported, but I still didn't really understand what that meant to be a director. And frankly, wasn't really interested because I was very focused on doing the work. And my first job was at NYPL, where it was a very large system, and we struggled to sort of exist within that no culture. No, we can't do this project because we don't have enough money. No, you can't do this project because you don't have enough resources. Just a litany of those things. And my partner in crime, the teen librarian, I was the children's librarian, and I developed our mantra of just saying yes. Just find a way to get to yes. And so coming out of that experience to Darien, that draw was, they say yes to things, and let's find a way to make these things work and be creative about that. So it was a culture shock to move to Meridian, Idaho, where I think the best way to put it is the bar was pretty low. The library was not thought of or considered as a community partner. In fact, I just last week was reading city council minutes where we had applied for some zoning to do a parking lot expansion, and the letter that was written was not very nice. So there were clearly some bad and toxic relationships prior to my coming there. To my advantage, the bar was really low, both with staff and the community. So, so kind of coming in with a fresh perspective and a new perspective to the community that was very traditional, its beliefs about libraries too, I was able to use that to my advantage. And I loved the library of the small library of the year from Bonners Ferry up in northern Idaho. Sandy Ashworth, she would be referred to as Sandy from the library. Everyone knew Sandy from the library. I think it's like 11,000 people live in the town there. And I loved that I realized that model would work really well in this small community, really still, even though there were that many residents. Everybody knows each other. They run into each other at the supermarket. Everywhere I go, people are, hey, can you return this? So the strategy for me was really to embrace the Harwood models of turning outward, embedded librarianship, and it was sort of easy because I didn't come from within the community to say I need to better understand all of you and build those relationships. And so by being really present and active civically within the community, joining the Kiwanis Club, going around to doing the road show and all the service clubs of Rotary and Optimist Club and so forth. Helped me start to develop those relationships. And I came in talking about how libraries were amazing and we do all of these things and we transform lives and we're information professionals in the information age. And then I had a hard reality check when I realized that the staff at my library did not actually possess the skill sets to realize the things that I was talking about in the community. And that if someone came into the library and it was expecting an experience better than they could Google, they weren't getting it. And so I really had to pretty intentionally start to think about how we were going to really transform the staff and the organizational culture that we had to make sure that we were building the skills that the staff need in order to enact the mission from the way that I wanted to see it. So that was hard because I had staff that didn't know the difference between reply and reply all. Also hard coming from Darien Library, which we were pretty tech savvy there. So we did a lot of basic skills training and continuing to work on the culture piece. And a lot of what Richard was talking about really resonates with me around using compassion, being good listeners, and really trying to understand what their experiences are. Basically applying the same principles that we expect from customer service for our community, applying them to our staff, and making sure that the staff feel supported and have those opportunities. Another challenge for us was around our limited footprint. And so we have 3 branches, one of which is 2,800 square feet. It's our technology library that's called Unbound. And that's our most recent project that had opened. But the city has grown and people don't, this is a drive-through culture. So they want to pick up their coffee in their car and drop off their dry cleaning in their car and not get out of their cars. So for us, the challenge of creating access points is really hard in a state that requires a 67% supermajority to do capital bonding. So our strategy, it works really well by using embedded librarianship and turning outward. It was really to leverage community partners and continue to, in the long run, we hope those gains, that will pay off in allowing us to have more collaborative, co-located spaces. One of which we're working with a children's theater to build a children's library in the space, and they can help us with the capital pieces. So we're, in the long run, hoping some of those community partnerships will also help us with our capital challenges. And working in the virtual space, which is still very slow, to use those strategies to overcome our physical space limitations. So, what was the other question I was supposed to cover? There's so many questions in the question. Was community partners and the evolving role. Oh, so another challenge for me in coming into this as a new director was that it's both a blessing and a curse to not have any framework, because I'm making it up. I'm making everything up with a lot of ingenuity, but also common sense. And I hope good judgment to say, maybe we should make sure we have a strategic plan before we put a ballot measure on the ballot. And getting us all grounded, but one of the structural pieces, I found myself really interested in process when I became an assistant director in Darien and thinking about how do you organize a system that helps people feel grounded but still provides flexibility for them to be creative so that they can be, I love the expression lighter, quicker, cheaper. That just works really well for our organization to turn things around. For Unbound, for example, we pitched the idea in March to open this branch in a vacant bank downtown Meridian, and then we cut the ribbon in October, which was kind of insane, I admit, but really fascinating, and we learned a lot, and that we were able to do that because we are a nimble organization that wants to, as my former boss, Alan, who's here, used to say, we're notorious for getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready in our field. And so how can we use the process of getting ready responsibly when it's appropriate, but how can we set our staff free to go and fly when they have creative ideas? And I try to balance that in my work. But starting from nothing means that it takes a lot of hard work to create that, and that there aren't things that I can pass down to the staff. The staff can't write the record retention policy and ensure that our systems are adequately making our public records available. Those things have to come from me, and they take so long. But I also find it really rewarding to be in a knowledge profession where I'm continuing to learn. This is the longest I've had a job, the same job, and I'm not bored yet because it's really so interesting. I'm learning about law and policy and governance and meeting with legislators and moving into a whole new realm of advocacy, both for my organization but for libraries in our state as well, because I feel like I can speak on those issues that are so passionate and near and dear to my heart around literacy and what libraries do. And I think even in 4 years, we've really come a long way in moving the needle from a library that no one thought about to a library that is very present, that community leaders talk about and advocate on our behalf because of the leadership, and it's not just me, I mean the leadership of the organization, and the actual work. And so I think in a community like ours where functionally we exist as this democratic institution, and all of these things that we believe around diversity and inclusion and things like that, that are also can be triggers for a community that sees that as a combative term when I actually don't know how to word that, especially since this is being recorded. But yeah. So I think it's a dance that we do in our library service. But as long as we anchor and everyone agrees on the mission, the purpose of what we do, we have been so far successful in setting things like the politics aside. A process that we used, it was similar to Richard's statement, the culture statement, but we developed a service philosophy, and it's hold doors open. It's a simple phrase, anyone can use it. It came from the staff to have a way that we can frame the work we do, solve a problem, come up with a solution, whether that's staff or with the public, to say, how can we hold doors open for this person? And so that has helped us keep moving forward in the work that we do and trying to do it on a lighter, quicker, cheaper timeline. So,
oh, great.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. This is such an interesting range of experiences, and we are pretty much out of time. I had one really quick question. If you guys could just sort of give me brief answers. It's not an open-ended one like the last one, but as directors, I know that most people sort of move outside of the realm of having mentors. Because you might have a cohort or a different group, but what do you do? Where do you go to learn what you need to know? Who do you go to? How do you do that?
This is why I come to conferences like this, because it really is the networking that is so essential for me. And of course, I'm very big in IFLA, the International Federation of Library Associations, and the Metropolitan Library Councils in particular. So it's that worldwide view that I like to get to know and tuck under my belt and learn. And you'll see a lot of that reflected in our new libraries, is what I learned when I was in the Netherlands and Belgium and a number of other places.
Great, thanks.
Mentors for me have played a very important role throughout my career. But at this stage of my career, it's not so much that I look towards mentors. Now I rely on a network of colleagues, colleagues in the library profession, as well as colleagues within the city executive team. So those are the individuals that I really look to for advice and to serve as to provide feedback. I did want to say the subject today was the evolving role of library directors, but it also translates to the evolving role of library staff. And what we're looking at is the change in terms of the skill sets that are needed now for library in the 21st century is changing significantly. So that's a focus area for the San Antonio Public Library. And it's created, it's caused for this uncomfortable conversations with the team. But I think those conversations need to be had, because again, the skill sets that are needed today are much different from my perspective and from my experience than 10 years ago. So it's a conversation we're having, and it's interesting.
I wouldn't be as confident coming into the position if I hadn't had great mentors and support. I had wonderful bosses that taught me about budgeting and gave me a window into administration. And I've tried to apply that model back to my leadership team, both in terms of transparency, but also in terms of development. But when it comes to my own needs and support, yes, definitely conferences and social media and spaces where I feel like I can talk with others who maybe are sharing that. But we are in a sharing profession, and I love contacting somebody I've never met, Ava Davis at Canton Public Library, because they're a peer library in the PLA metrics for us, has been a huge resource for me, just because she's willing to share resources, information, what they've done, what worked, what didn't. So I'd like to just ask people who have a reputation for it or have some similarity, if it's a project or a tool or a skill or something.